Good morning, church. It's good to be with you here today. I'm really happy to be able to look into Acts chapter 10 with you today. We're going to get right into it. Verse 9 says, "The next day, as they were traveling, that is, those sent by Cornelius who received a vision from God to go get Peter so that he might proclaim the gospel to him and his family. As they were traveling and nearing the city, Peter went up to pray on the roof about noon. He became hungry and wanted to eat. But while they were preparing something, he fell into a trance. He saw heaven opened, and an object that resembled a large sheet coming down, being lowered by its four corners to the earth. In it were all the four-footed animals and reptiles of the earth and the birds of the sky. A voice said to him, 'Get up, Peter, kill and eat.' 'No, Lord,' Peter said, 'for I have never eaten anything impure and ritually unclean.' Again, a second time, the voice said to him, 'What God has made clean, do not call impure.' This happened 3 times, and suddenly the object was taken up into heaven." I sometimes think of this like a giant movie screen or something that's coming down, or the giant blanket held by four angels on the corners. But whatever it looked like, the reality is that Peter was visited by a distressing vision. Distressing because God was commanding him to do something that his Jewish heritage, his law, told him wasn't right to do. He couldn't eat those four-footed animals like dogs, horses. There's prescriptions for that. Some of the birds were unclean, the eagles and the vultures, those carrion eaters, they were unclean. And so God is saying, what I've made clean, don't call unclean. In this, we're seeing a shift. Something has changed. God has made a directional change in the law. And Peter is confronted with this, and this is ultimately going to lead him to a revelation about the Gentiles, to say that the Gentiles are not an unclean people, which is good for you and me, because they were viewed as outside of the faith. But we know that we have been grafted in. Paul makes a lot of noise about that. That's very important to him. The connection, and yet in some senses the separateness of the Jew and the Christian. And in our Exodus reading today, Moses went back up on the mountaintop. He's interceding before God to come, and God is sharing about the feasts a little bit, the 3 feasts at this time that God gives. And the New Testament has some comment on those too. If we go to Colossians chapter 2, we're told that, therefore, don't let anyone judge you in regard to food and drink, or in the matter of a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath day. These are a shadow of what is to come. The substance is Christ. Let no one condemn you by delighting in ascetic practices. And then he makes the same thing in Galatians 4. He says, do you want to be enslaved to them all over again? You are observing special days, months, seasons, and years. I am fearful for you that perhaps my labor for you has been wasted. What is being railed against here? In our new covenant system, Jesus is the foundation, and faith in him is what justifies us. We're told in Galatians 3:7 that those who have faith are Abraham's sons. How do you become part of the family? You believe, you have faith. It's not any of the works. Those things are not necessarily pleasing to God. They're not what draws close to him. What draws us close to him is to have faith and to obey Jesus commands, the law of Christ, which is to love our neighbor as ourselves, as we love God with our whole hearts, and to go and to advance the kingdom. That is where we are in our faith. That is what we are called and directed to do. And there are a variety of expressions of our faith and how we live out that obedience to Christ. And our job is, of course, never to fight or condemn one another, but to work with one another in love and in compassion, because we are ultimately moving in the same direction. not moving people into an obedience to the law, but moving people into a relationship with Jesus whereby they can have real religion. James says true religion is this: to care for the widows and the orphans, the most dejected at that time, the most vulnerable class of people. And so that's what we should be doing today. If that's true religion, then true religion now is to love those who are most in need and who can't help themselves. And so, church, pray. Where is God moving you to be his good servant? Because our faith is not meant to just make us feel good. Our faith is meant to drive us out, to engage our communities and the peoples around us, to advance the gospel, and to meet the needs of people so that they might be able to receive it. I love you, church. I look forward to talking to you soon. I look forward to hearing from you.